It's a chilly day today, but I got the teas with me, and I have good news and bad news. The good news is the T Pro is the most refined and well-rounded tea to date, and it's very competitive with the other $300, meta IEMs, or just the other $300 IEMs in general. But the bad news is the sauce is gone. I'm sorry, T Cult. On the other hand, though, if you want a better Davinci, then the T Pros are literally that because they graph and sound pretty much the same. The Pros are also bassy. It's got that heaviness and thickness to the notes like the Davinci, but it just has more upper mids and treble extension now with better resolution on top and a little bit better timbre. For around $60 more versus the Davinci, you get better drivers, branded ones from Knowles, which helps with the timbre as well as a bump in the overall technical performance and resolution, and equally good accessories in my opinion. Basically, Sens took Timmy's homework and they changed it a little bit and just made it a better version of the Davinci. I would consider these an all-rounder with the bass notes having that heaviness to the slam. The texture is great in the bass, and although the speed and separation is not the fastest, but it's definitely fast enough and they are very satisfying. The vocals and the highs pop out just enough as well. They're not overemphasized, they're not underemphasized. They're just at the perfect distance and just how forward they are. Tech wise, they're pretty competitive to the other $200 plus IEMs, and compared to the Davincis, they sound more resolving, where the Davincis could be a little bit too smooth in the bass as well as the overall resolution. But the overall imaging and transients when it comes to the attack, the separation on the Pros are going to be better versus the Davinci, as well as sounding a little bit more natural. But how does it compare to the other teas? Better, but also not as special as them. Again, the sauce is gone. Versus the OG teas. Now, as some of you may know, the OG teas are one of my favorite IEMs when it comes to vocals. You crank them up and the bite and the consonants hits just right, giving you a clear but very highly addicting sound along with the holographic staging. Now, the Pros on the other hand aren't that, but they're better than the original teas in a lot of other areas. For example, the vocals are more balanced, they feel fuller on the Pros, they're less dynamic and clear and addicting as the OGs, but they're also smoother, more balanced, more versatile, and better with other genres. I know some of you guys prefer the slow, linear vocal rise on the original teas and the T2s, but the Pros are just overall more open in the extension. They feel less, forward without being shouty, and they just feel, more tonally correct to most people. And low end wise, the T Pros are just straight up better when it comes to the slam, the texture, impact, resolution, the rumble. The new dual dynamic drivers in the Pros are a noticeable improvement not only over the OGs but over the T2s as well. And same could be said for the treble and the overall resolution. They feel better extended, it feels a bit smoother and clearer, and the Pros are just a step up in that department versus the other two when it comes to the layering, the imaging, and the overall micro details. They still scale pretty good. The T2 is gonna feel smoother overall, whereas the stage feels more open to me on the Pros. Less 3D and wrap around your head as the original and the T2s, which is good or bad depending on your preference. So basically, the Pros are the best all-rounded well-balanced version of the 3Ts, and you should either get the Pros for its versatility, resolution, and just as an all-rounder set, or the original Ts for the vocals and the 3D staging and the scaling, if you can still find them. I would skip the T2s because there's just a lot of trade-offs when it comes to resolution, the bass, the treble. It does scale better, but overall, I think the Pros are just gonna be better overall, as well as if you want something more special, the OGTs will be better in that regards as well. Now versus the Estrella, I know you guys have been asking for this, but I'm gonna be doing a full length comparisons later. But TLDR for now, the Estrella has more dynamic contrast. It's more exciting. The sound is more lively. It's less safe and meta tune and versus the Pros, and more detail when it comes to the treble, more airy and more crispier. Low end wise, both are around the same when it comes to texture. Both are pretty good, with the Estrella having more sub bass quantity and a bit snappier when it comes to the decay in the mid bass. Technical performance wise, I would say they're on the same, but the main difference is that the T Pros are just more balanced and a little bit thicker in the no weight. It slams a little bit harder, it's a little bit deeper, whereas the Estrella is going to sound more exciting. It's more crispier in the treble, and it sounds less traditional or meta when you compare to the T, and just like more different, but more on that later in the full Estrella comparison. Now, compared to the Pilgrim and the DUSK, I'm grouping them together because they're both neutral with a slight triple emphasis. They sound pretty similar and they fill the same niche. So the main difference is that the cymbals are going to be airier on both the DUSK and the Pilgrim. You hear more details in the treble, like the cymbal splashes, and the overall sense of space feels like more open, more pushed back, cleaner in the mid bass. You know, there's obviously less low end, it feels less heavy, it's lighter in the no weight with like a more laid back presentation to the DUSK and the Pilgrim. Stage wise, the T's feel more forward with better extended vocals, you know, that are fuller, it's a little bit clearer, whereas both the DUSK and the Pilgrim can be like a little bit light when it comes to no weight, especially when you like listen to some male singers. It just sounds much better on the T's. They sound fuller, more natural, as well as instruments like violins just sound more lush on the pros. There's also just more bass on the T pros. This is pretty bassy compared to the Pilgrim and the DUSK, which is, you know, again, more lean in the low end, and it's like a lot more forward when it comes to bass on the pros. It sounds harder, it's heavier, it has a deeper and thicker feeling to the notes, which gives it more engagement and contrast along with like the bite in the nose drivers. But overall resolution and detail is pretty similar. They trade blows with each other in certain areas. You know, the DUSK and the Pilgrim is going to be better in the layering, separation, and the treble detail, whereas the T pros are more textured in the bass. It has a fuller sound. It sounds a little bit more natural to me, and the vocals are a little bit clear. You hear the details in the vocals a little bit better on the pros. Pretty much when it comes down to it, if you want a bassy set that's still well balanced, go for the T pros. But if you want like a cleaner, more airy and chill listen, then go either for the DUSK or the Pilgrim, and you know, hopefully you don't run into unit variations on the DUSK. Now versus the Hype Force, the low end on these two are very similar, with both of them having like that bassier kind of sound, and I would put them around the same level, as it really depends on what you prefer more. The main difference is that the Hype Force feel a little bit quicker and snappier in the low end, with the attack and the decay being, you know, slightly faster, and just overall less quantity, a little bit less forward versus the T pros, but still pretty forward. Whereas the pros slams harder, it's deeper, it's more like in your face, but at the cost of being like slightly slower when it like pulls back and contracts, and a little bit less balanced versus the Hype Force. Vocal wise, the pros feel a little bit like sharper, a little bit more like bite to the vocals, maybe because of the nose drivers. They feel a little bit more extended as well. The treble is going to be smoother on the Hype Force, whereas again there's going to be more bite to the nose. But like technical performance wise, they're pretty similar, and really comes down to, do you want like a smoother and more balanced sound from the Sonians on the Hype Force, or do you want like a bassier profile with more contrast and like more bite with the nose drivers on the pros? So basically under $400 you got 3 routes. If you want something clean and neutral, then you're looking at the Pilgrim or the DUSK, and if you want something more exciting and dynamic, you have the Estrella with that deep sub bass and crispy treble. And then finally, if you want something like in between neutral and exciting, you know, a little bit of both, then that's where the T pros would fall into, along with the Hype Force, since they are around the same for me, and really depends on like how I'm feeling that day. I would reach for the pros or the Hype Force. But yeah, great release from Zenz. Definitely their most refined and like all-rounded T to date, even though, you know, it doesn't have the sauce anymore versus the OG and the T2s, but it is like, it's gonna be the better pick for most people because they're gonna enjoy it more. It's more all-rounded, it's less, I guess, quirky as the other two. But yeah, aside from that, I hope their review was helpful. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see everyone in the next one. Shout out to Rorix Cat, Dom Q, Star Buccaneers, This Call Scaldus, B_Urac, Mystic Spoon Attack, Oh Really, Walker Standard, User, Ernest, Patrick, Belcel Kel, Polly J, Mr. Gorillas, Anton Reestill, Gis Seng Young, Tamat Pafrache, Ed Dunlap, Christopher Jackson, Name, Henry Claudia, Son of a Horse, 777 ZK, Ben Thompson, Franco Gomez, Asher, Jab, Obi, iCommon 87, Contain Guava Juice Gains, Treble Well Extended, and Wizard. Thank you guys so much.